Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 13. Today we take a closer look at Anthony Kenneth China Watson, the 9th fastest man in world rugby. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for your continued support. A quick plea to those of you that tune in regularly. If you like what you hear, please head over to iTunes or go to us on your app and give us a review. The downloads help for sure, but it seems the formula for getting noticed requires reviews and ratings. So you'll be doing us a massive favour. We are, after all, competing with the BBC, BT Sport, Sky, and a whole load of professionally produced podcasts. So our little pod needs all the help it can get. So please help represent the little guy, that's us. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter at England Rugby Pod. Or you can see all the goings on, past and upcoming episodes and anything else interesting we've shared on the website, which is www.englandrugbypod.com. Right, admin complete. Let's crack on with the episode, where I'm joined once again by Mr. Wood. Hi, mate.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Just about recovered from Vegas. Although it has been a week, so I probably can't use that excuse anymore. How about you?
Yeah, well, I'm physically exhausted from Vegas, mentally traumatized from Vegas. So I think the less we speak about it, the happier I'm going to be for the next few weeks. And if I don't see your face or any of the other boys who were there face for the next few weeks, I'll be happy as well.
Fair enough. Lucky it's a podcast, not a TV interview.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, on that note, let's crack straight on with the episode. Today we are looking at Anthony Kenneth China Watson.
Anthony Kenneth China. I like that. I like that.
Strong. He is, of course, a winger and a fullback, although we are yet to see him in that position for England, but I'm sure it will happen eventually.
Well, he's covered, hasn't he? When Mike Brown got injured in the Six Nations, he did cover.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he stepped in. I remember one match, Mike Brown, I think it might have been against Scotland in the Six Nations, not this one, the year before.
The Grand Slam.
Yes, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
no. Are you sure that wasn't good?
No. Anthony Watson definitely covered, like halfway through a match, sort of scenario.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, there you go. We have seen him. It wasn't that memorable. Let's hope we see him again and it's more memorable. Obviously, therefore, he represents England, but he also represents Bath and is, of course, now a British and Irish Lion. He was born on the 26th of February 1994, so he's not very old. To mum Viv and dad Duncan. He's got two brothers, Marcus and Callum. His girlfriend is called Elise, and interestingly, he has an uncle, Mark Watson, who was a Concorde pilot.
Awesome. That's good. And his brother Marcus plays for Newcastle, I believe, and is on the 7th circuit. From what I understand.
Yeah, I've got a little bit all about him that we'll come to, but he definitely comes from a bit of a rugby family for sure. He's not small, 94 kilos, so it's like 14 stone 10, 14 stone 11. He's about 6'2". He has 26 caps for England. Interestingly, 24 of them are starts, which I thought was quite an impressive stat. You know, usually you see guys, quite a few caps early on are off the bench, and he has 24 out of 26 starting.
Yeah, and he's built them up quickly, hasn't he? He's, like you say, he's like born 94. I mean, Jesus, he's still young and he's got those caps. He's earned those caps quickly.
And when you consider he missed the autumn internationals and the first 2 or 3 games of the Six Nations this year.
Yeah, so he's done really well, and he's been, but he was just impactful straight away, wasn't he? Just, I mean, obviously we'll cover in a bit more detail, but just as soon as he came on the scene, you're like, okay, this guy looks a bit special.
Well, he's got a 50% try scoring ratio, so 13 tries from his 26 caps, and actually 12 of those have come from the most recent 18 games. So he actually has like a 66% try scoring record after his first game.
Wow, that's really good in international rugby. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what England need, is someone like that. You kind of almost saying, okay, if he didn't score this week, he's going to score next week.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 18 caps for London Irish, with 4 tries for them. That was in his. That's where he started off. That was his early career, and then Bath, where he is now, 72 caps. I'm caveating that because, as I'll come on to, there were a few different sources suggesting different numbers of caps, but they all agree 19 tries. 72 caps, 19 tries for Bath. He was born in Ashford in Surrey, so another Surrey man, and he played his rugby for Effingham and Leatherhead Rugby Club, starting off with their minis and working his way up to the under-16s, at which point he was selected for the England under-16s. He went to St George's College in Weybridge, where one notable achievement was he won the national title there with the under-8s.
The national title for...
No idea, just the national title.
Okay, well, whatever that's me, well done.
But the under-8s. So he had a winning record from an early age. At senior level, I say senior, but school senior level, he was the fullback and vice captain. All whilst completing A-levels in chemistry, economics and PE. I did look for his results, couldn't find them anywhere. I don't know if that's a reflection on what he got. I know that if he got similar A-levels to me, he probably wants them hidden away.
And I don't think it matters at the moment either, in all honesty. I think I'm sure, it's always good to get the good A-levels, but I'm sure he is probably not that fussed about what his results are, bearing in mind what's currently going on in his life.
Absolutely. And with, rugby is obviously paying considerably more these days anyway, and then with things like the Lions Tour and England bonuses and everything else, he's not doing too badly. He is the 9th fastest World Rugby Union player, according to one source, behind Johnny May, who is 6th, according to the same source, and Nguyen, and I'm not going to attempt to say his first name, who's up there at the top. He's the American guy that's just ridiculous. Have you seen him?
Oh, is he the... I have seen him. Is he the guy on the 7th circuit?
Well, no, he plays for their 15s, but in America it's obviously a small sport, so I imagine there's a lot of crossover. But he's the guy that if they manage to get him the ball, he just skins everybody.
Yeah, I have seen that. I think he used to be a sort of top-level USA sprinter.
It would definitely make sense looking at the way when he gets the ball, it's pretty impressive, and it's one of the reasons actually why the USA are starting to look pretty sharp on the 7th circuit, because when you've got that much space and you've got someone with that kind of acceleration, you've only got to fling a long pass and get it in his hands, and it's try time.
Yeah, exactly. That helps. So going back to Anthony Watson, so he's second quickest. So Johnny May's quicker, which yeah, fair enough. So he's sort of second quickest in England. Yeah, well,
and there are 2 England players, if you count Johnny May, who's obviously on the fringe at the moment, in the top 10 fastest rugby union players, which is handy if Johnny May can find a way back in. I'm not convinced he can, but you just don't know, do you?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny May, I suspect, will be sort of thereabouts on the England fringes for a while, which is great. He's probably not first choice at the moment, but I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of him.
But yeah, Watson, he ran 11.2 at school. He claims that he can now run 10.85, although what he bases that on, I'm not sure. That's just his theory. Obviously, it's no Aki Abiola, who at school and at under 16 ran 10.3 on grass, barefoot, uphill into the wind.
You've told me this story before. Yeah. Let's just say my levels of scepticism are still fairly high around this.
Fair enough. I mean, it may not have happened, but it's a story that I'm sticking to.
I like it. I like your commitment to that. And actually, you were saying about quick. I heard I think it was the BBC, but yeah, it was the BBC podcast the other day, where Hugo Monya apparently at school ran 10.6.
Well, this is where Watson came up with his 10.85. So he was actually being interviewed by Hugo, and they asked him how quick he could run it, and he said, "Oh, I don't know, probably 10.85 because I want it to be quicker than Hugo." And then, of course, Hugo came up with his number of 10.6, which was obviously slower than Aki.
Yes, yeah.
So Anthony's idols, his rugby idols, Quade Cooper, Curtly Beale and Israel Dagg, and of course, Mr. Wilkinson, Sir Johnny, obviously. So yeah, he's it kind of highlights his age, really, that they're his rugby idols. You kind of, when we sit here and we think of rugby idols, we think about when we were kids, who was big at the time. Obviously, Johnny is an exception to that rule because he should be everyone's idol forever, along with Lomu. But otherwise, you kind of think of guys from days gone by, and the fact that these are guys from days gone by for Anthony Watson just sort of highlights how young he is still. 24 or whatever. 23, 24. I can't do the maths, but something like that.
Johnny, yeah, I did like say. I still got a poster of Johnny on my ceiling in my bedroom. So, Johnny's
on your ceiling.
I want to wake up and look at Johnny. All right, this is not weird. I've had this argument forever, and it keeps going on. But this is not weird. This makes sense. I want to wake up and look at Johnny.
Johnny, if you're listening, and you're thinking about coming on the podcast, I can assure you Dan won't be around for that episode. Right, well, moving on. 2010, he had his London Irish A debut. So not quite all the way at the top, but it was an interesting one because it's what resulted in him choosing rugby. At that time he was with Wimbledon Football Academy, and he had trials for Chelsea, but he went down the rugby route. I'm sure there are a lot of these guys that have had shots at other sports. We talked about Elliot Daly a few weeks ago, and he obviously had a shot in the cricket world, but went down the rugby route. And Watson had the same with football.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. Trials with Chelsea means he was pretty damn useful player.
You say that, but I remember doing a season in Zante a few years back, 2006, I think it was, and I'm pretty sure that every other person there claimed to have had trials at Chelsea. So,
but I think the Anthony Watson one's probably backed up by fact, whereas I think all the other ones with everyone who had trials at Chelsea is probably more imaginative and hopeful thinking, where perhaps they once went to watch Chelsea train and kicked a ball back to one of the players or something.
Anyway, 2011, he was shortlisted for Young Sports Personality of the Year, and later that same year, he represented the Northern Hemisphere against the Southern Hemisphere in the Rugby Heroes Challenge at Twickenham. He is best mates with fellow England and Bath centre Jonathan Joseph.
Yeah, best mates with Jonathan Joseph, because Jonathan Joseph was also ex-Irish, wasn't he? So I believe they were Irish together.
Yeah, they've been together for a long time. From what I understand, Jonathan Joseph is a bit of a surrogate to his parents. Like he's spent a lot of time. He actually started off as Anthony's brother's mate, and Anthony kind of stole him because he was clearly, I don't know, more interesting, better at rugby.
I think that's it. Like, hey, your brother's pretty good at rugby, but you're better. So you're my new best mate.
I mean, speaking of his brother, as you mentioned earlier, yes, he plays rugby. He also represented the under-20s. He was part of the England Sevens circuit. He was part of the GB Sevens that won silver in Rio. And as of 2015, he is a Newcastle Falcon. And his dad played half a season for Saracens before a knee injury ended his career. So obviously a shame, but clearly a talented family.
Yeah, really good sporting family, right? And I've seen him play Sevens. His brother's a good player. His brother's a very good player.
So his professional career began in 2011 with his debut for London Irish against Newcastle. Interestingly, he is the youngest player to ever represent the club. That seems to be a bit of a theme. I'm sure we said the same thing about Elliot Daly 2 weeks ago. He stayed with them until 2013, as I mentioned, 18 caps, 4 tries, and then on the 25th of April in 2013, he signed for Bath. And then the following year, he signed a new deal guaranteeing him staying with the club until at least 2017. Now, I wasn't able to find out any more about what he's doing. I don't know when he would be due to renew the contract, but as far as I'm aware, there's no talk of him going anywhere else. So presumably he'll be renewing again this year at some point. For how long, I don't know. I imagine he's in a bit more demand these days. Yeah,
exactly. The new contract. So when he joined Bath, that was a really good, exciting Bath team. You had the likes of obviously Jonathan Joseph. You had Kyle Eastman, sort of Watson there. Really young, exciting team. But it still is actually. Maybe changed.
Yeah, George Ford is obviously leaving this year, but he's been there a few years as well.
George Ford leaving. Yeah, you had Sam Burgess there as well on his cameo in the rugby union world.
Swan song.
Yeah, but he's I've actually been to see him play for Bath a few times, and he does seem at home there. I mean, I know that's a really weird thing to say, bearing in mind, seeing him play on the pitch and sort of things, but they're clearly, I remember the times I've seen them, and I think I saw them when the year they actually made the Premiership final, and just the sort of camaraderie amongst the teams, amongst the back, just seemed really strong. It seemed like they'd had a good thing going down at Bath. Whether that's still the case, I don't know, but I certainly haven't heard rumours of him moving elsewhere, so I'll be surprised if he doesn't extend his stay at Bath.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we'd be hearing things by now if it was looking likely that he was going elsewhere, wouldn't we?
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, his international career began with the usual route: under 16s, under 18s, and then only just 17 years old, he was picked for the under 20s in 2012. 2013, he was an under 20s Six Nations champion and a Junior World Championships champion. I think they beat New Zealand that year in the semis and then Wales in the final.
I remember watching the match. I remember watching both those matches. Wales had a young Sam Davies at fly half. It was a good match, and he was, even then, just you could just tell that he was an absolute talent, just rapid, and just his sort of throughout that tournament, his finishing ability was just so impressive. And then still now, I still see it. He just has that eye for the try line, doesn't he? As soon as he sees it, he backs himself to get over that whitewash, however that may be.
And the acceleration, his ability to kind of go from sort of zero to I don't know what, but a lot in a very short space of time. How many times have we seen a bad pass or a pass that's gone slightly behind, and you're thinking, oh, and then suddenly he's just taken off and created an opportunity. It was one of the things we missed the most, wasn't it, when he got injured and various other players were coming in. Johnny May, rapid, but didn't seem to have that same rugby brain that enabled him to do the same things that Anthony Watson can do, even though he's maybe a touch slower on the clock.
Yeah, a touch slower, and I'm sure it's literally fractional. But there are times with Anthony Watson where I've seen him play, and I'd say very few players in the world, I think this about, probably no one else in the England team, I think this is about at the moment, when perhaps on the outskirts, perhaps of Christian Wade, but where I just don't really see where he gets the ball. I'm like, I don't understand how you're going to score a try from here, but he just makes it happen. Like you say, because that acceleration is just so quick.
Yeah.
His determination, he's surprisingly strong. But you said he's bigger than I thought he was, because I guess he's quite tall. He's obviously sort of in excellent condition, but he doesn't necessarily look as big as he is. And it always impresses me how strong he is, sort of in the tackle and sort of getting through those tackles. So his finishing ability is just, sometimes when I sort of see it, I'm just like, wow, yeah, good for you, mate, good for you.
Well, he has the unusual distinction of having scored for the under-18s, sandwiched between tries for the under-20s, all within a 3-week period. So I think he scored for the under-20s against Scotland. Then the following week, he went and scored for the under-18s. I'm not sure who it was against. And then the week after that, he scored twice for the under-20s against Wales. So, weird fun fact. Clearly, he was, maybe he was on the cusp of the 20s at the time, and so they took him down one week. But there you go. Unusual distinction.
This is pretty solid information you get. I think last week on my Dan Cole one, it was like, Dan Cole's from Leicester, plays prop, and you seem to know this guy's life history. I might need to get a few notes from you about doing some research.
That's not a problem. I can arrange to have those provided for you.
I told you I don't want to see you for 2 weeks, so it will be after that.
It's fine. I'll email them. At 19, he was called into the senior squad to train before the Argentina Autumn International. So that was in November 2013. He wasn't used, but he was part of the training squad, so great experience. And then January the following year, he was named in the 35-man Six Nations squad. Again, he wasn't used. He ended up actually playing for the Saxons, so he made his Saxons debut then against the Irish Wolfhounds. But he got his first senior appearance for England in an uncapped friendly, so it wasn't an official cap, but in an uncapped friendly against the Crusaders during the summer tour to New Zealand. And his first official cap was actually against the All Blacks, but back home and at Twickenham, where he seems to have done an awful lot of his an awful lot of his success stories seem to have been at Twickenham. He clearly enjoys playing there. Came off the bench in a narrow loss, but 21-24 is especially back then, was a pretty good result against New Zealand.
If you're within 7-10 points of the All Blacks, you've probably had a good day out, to be honest.
Yeah, and then he went on to start all of the remaining autumn internationals that year. So that was South Africa, Samoa, and Australia. So, he made a pretty good... He clearly made a good statement. He came off the bench against New Zealand and did enough for them to say, yeah, you're in for the next 3 games.
Yeah, no, even like impactful straight away. And like you say, it's interesting because he's his couple of bench appearances, but as soon as he started, he's made that statement that, hey, I'm number one pick now, and has been consistently since.
Yeah, well, actually, so that was his first. His debut was came off the bench, and he started every game then that he was available for until his return after injury, which we'll come on to, when he came off the bench for Elliot Daly. So, he had a pretty good stint. Like, he literally made an impression on his debut, and enough so that they went, yeah, you're in. That's it. Whoever was there is now out. And it's no wonder, because he's a bit of a try scoring machine, as we saw from those stats earlier on. I mean, his first England try came against Wales at Millennium Stadium, and that was during the 2015 Six Nations.
That was Tunnelgate, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah, it was. He was then subsequently selected in Stuart Lancaster's 31-man Rugby World Cup squad. He got his first man of the match in the World Cup warm-up game, do you remember, against France, again at Twickenham. And of course, he started all 4 of the World Cup group matches before England crashed out in iconic style later that year.
Yeah, let's move on.
Moving on. He's therefore been an ever-present in Eddie's kind of regime. I mean, he was part of Eddie's first 9 games in charge, key member, obviously, of the 2016 Grand Slam winning side, and he went over to Australia and helped them get the whitewash over there before he got a broken jaw, which he actually got in a training camp in Brighton in October, just before the autumn internationals. And that sort of took him out of the fray, unfortunately.
Was that part, because that training camp, there were a few injuries, wasn't it? I think a few guys from a judo. That was clearly a brutal training camp, wasn't it? Because I think a few of them came away pretty battered and bruised as a result of that.
Wasn't that the one when Eddie Jones said, if you want to play against the best in the world and you want to beat the best in the world, you've got to train like the best in the world?
Yeah, and I'm absolutely. And there's not a part of me that's sort of criticising or anti that. It's actually a sentiment I agree with. But it was, it's a shame to lose those players. But look, it's a pretty physical sport. You got to be prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean his return from that injury was due to be, I think, for the Six Nations, but he ended up with a hamstring injury just before that. So he actually didn't return until the game against Scotland, where, as I mentioned, he came off the bench replacing Elliot Daly. Do you remember when? Because Elliot was he was tip tackled, wasn't he? By who was it?
It was for hooker, wasn't it? I can't remember who was playing hooker for Scotland that day.
But yeah, and he went off after about 2 minutes, and it kind of just opened the door for England to ultimately get that record win against Scotland, and that was his return. And it doesn't look like he's looked back since.
No, he got a try, didn't he? That was the day where JJ just absolutely ripped apart the Scottish midfield, and it was actually JJ who set up Anthony Watson for his try, wasn't it? Which from Watson's perspective was a run-in, but obviously, he had to be there. So
yeah, and he's a winger. His job is to finish those. So as long as he keeps finishing them, I don't care how easy they are.
yeah, exactly.
He has spoken out about the high tackle directives, all the new rules, basically saying that he believes actually that they're more dangerous. He thinks that it will result in more concussions because he says players are now thinking too much about going low rather than just making a good tackle. And he thinks that in that kind of moment when you have to make the tackle, if you start to think about something else, i.e. go low so that I don't get carded, you risk getting yourself in a bad position and you risk more concussions. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I wasn't following that. I was like, I don't get how that's more concussions. He's saying from a tackler perspective rather than a person being tackled. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can see his point there, but I think a part of me slightly disagrees. You know, they're the laws. Train based on that. I mean, I guess I can see the sort of thinking behind it, but they're professional players. I guess train to the laws and just make sure that your instinct is to not take off someone's head, and then hope they'll be saved as well.
I agree. I think that's what I liked about it was the fact that he spoke out, and not so much what he was saying, but the fact that he was prepared to say, do you know what, I disagree, and I don't mind telling people that I disagree, because I think that's quite important, particularly with a lot of these senior guys. When you just toe the party line, so to speak, it's it's a bit frustrating as a fan watching. Just you kind of think, do you really think that? Why are you saying that?
Yeah, it's a bit boring,
just
isn't it?
to be it kind of becomes political, and that's not what this is about. So yeah, I like the fact that he spoke out, even if we don't necessarily agree 100% with what he's saying. But talking of speaking out, his first 1-to-1 with Eddie Jones, it was short and sweet. Eddie said, "Improve your footwork and get faster." You can kind of hear him saying it, can't you? In your head, you can hear that Aussie twang saying it.
I can exactly hear that saying, and it's just, I think Anthony Watson, one of the quickest wingers in the world, with brilliant footwork, and then that's your feedback. I mean, at least in no uncertain terms. Okay, fair enough. I'll get on that, Eddie.
Yeah, and
you're the boss.
And it was with the one thing he said about the injury that the one bonus, if you like. Obviously, I'm sure he would have chosen not to be injured given the choice. But he said the one bonus was that he got to really focus on exactly that. And what he did was actually he studied American sprinters' techniques, mega slow-mo, looking at their techniques in detail so that he now, when he's out on the pitch, there are ways that he kind of explodes off his, when he starts a sprint, how he pushes off, how he runs, how he kind of raises his knees a little bit more. There are certain things that he's doing that make him believe that he's now the fastest he's ever been as a result of that. So, that's great, short and sweet for sure, but it's clearly given him something to focus on. And if he can see that there is an improvement as a result, then please keep getting faster.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I like that. I like the fact you said that. I think Johnny May did that as well when he was injured as well. I think Johnny May even maybe went out to a sprint camp in America. Don't quote me on this.
No, I think I agree. I vaguely remember reading about something along those lines. He's also spoken to Eddie about fullback, as we mentioned right at the beginning. He has said the details will remain private, at least for now, which is obviously interesting. But I guess it's this strength in depth. I mean, if you think about it, we've got strength in depth in, I think, every other position. There are options in every other position except fullback. And yeah, there are players that we talk about. I mean, we talk about Anthony Watson, we talk about Elliot Daly, and there are various others on the fringes that we talk about. But there's no one really who is an obvious replacement for Mike Brown. I don't mean that as in no one else is good enough. There just isn't anyone currently, right in the mix. And I think, Eddie Jones has made it.
I think that's exactly what you mean. No one else is good enough.
Well, no, I don't. But I actually think there are people who are better. I don't think Mike Brown is necessarily the best choice at 15. But no one else has been kind of brought in. I think Anthony Watson should be 15 for England.
So actually, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. And it's something we say a lot. And it seems like we're dismissing Mike Brown a bit. Not at all. I mean, Mike Brown's been a brilliant fullback for England, but he is getting a bit older and perhaps doesn't quite have the same pace he did.
Yeah, Mike Brown's best days are behind him. I think there's no question about that. There was a time when he was brilliant. He just isn't as good anymore. And I think when you look at some of the guys that you got to compete with around the world in that position, we need strength and depth as much as anything else. Even if you're going to continue to use Mike Brown, he needs to not think that his position is safe. The rest of the team seem to have absolutely risen to this challenge of, if you want to keep your spot, you've got to earn it. Mike Brown is the only one, and this isn't to say that he doesn't work hard or doesn't fight for his position, but there isn't anyone obvious kind of waiting in the wings to take that position from him in the same way that there appears to be in pretty much every other position on the pitch, bar maybe number 8 with Billy. But that's only, but even then you've still got Nathan Hughes saying, listen, you make a mistake and I'm there and I'm ready to go.
And the likes of Jack Clifford. Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. I do think I agree with that. The 15 spot does seem to be Mike Brown's. I mean, he must need credit for that himself. I mean, defensively, certainly having Mike Brown. Like, if I see someone break through and Mike Brown's last tackle, I'm like, okay, cool. Who's going to be tackled then? Like I sort of alluded to earlier, the future of fullback, if we're purely basing this on an age perspective, Anthony Watson in my head is the next England fullback once Mike Brown hangs up his boots or whatever route it takes for a new fullback to be coming in. Anthony Watson to me looks like a good fullback, and having that pace. I mean, we've seen it when sort of Israel Daggs played there for Australia, just having that sort of pace and that just footwork makes such an impact on the pitch.
That was one of Mike Brown's big strengths when he was at his peak, wasn't it? It was that he just wanted to counterattack everything, and it made him so dangerous. And you don't really see it in the same way. Like, he'll still run the ball back, but he doesn't do the damage that he used to do. And obviously he doesn't have that kind of electric pace. So, and Anthony Watson has spoken out about how much he enjoys the counterattack, getting that ball in space at the back, just giving him that little bit more time to look up and go, right, what am I going to do? How am I going to attack this? It's exciting to think, I want to see more of that. I want to see him given a chance to do more. And obviously it's brilliant. He's going on the Lions tour, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens, because he's by no means ruled out of being a fullback over there. It's quite possible that he will play fullback, whether it be for the midweek team or potentially the test team. You never know what's going to happen, but it'll be good to see him in an England shirt at the back, in an England 15 shirt at some point.
Definitely. Because you're saying about the Lions, interesting. I mean, I've got him, as we speak now, I've got him as a test starter, not at fullback because I've got Stuart Hogg there, but I'd be interested if, for example, Stuart Hogg got injured, I would. Yeah, I mean, who'd be your next? I mean, I suspect Gatland would probably go with Halfpenny, but I would prefer Watson.
I think there's probably about 4 or 5 I'd put in before Halfpenny. Like, fair respect to Halfpenny for what he did in 2013. He just isn't that guy anymore. He's a bit like a Mike Brown. His best years, well, not necessarily his best years. We don't know what the future holds, but certainly, he's nowhere near. He's a shadow of what he was, sort of 4 years ago. And I just can't see why you would pick him in the test team unless every other kicker was injured, because I can't see what else he offers. And I know that Lions tours can sometimes bring things out of players that internationals or club games don't, but that's a big risk to take. And I just think, Liam Williams, Anthony Watson, Elliot Daly, Payne probably can cover fullback. There are options that I would probably consider before Lee Halfpenny, but I know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what Warren goes with. Look, Anthony Watson is a man who can be summed up really, certainly on a rugby pitch at least, in probably 2 words, which is athleticism and pace. They're the 2 things that really stand out when it comes to a guy like him. So what better way to sign this off than to direct you to the website, www.englandrugbypod.com, where there is a tribute video. I know normally tribute videos are saved for people when they're retiring, but he's already done so much. So go over to the website, check that out, and see exactly what it is this guy can do and what the future holds, and enjoy it. Thanks again, guys, for joining us today. It's great, obviously, having you supporting us. Please continue to do so. Please do go over to iTunes, drop us a review, and ask us questions. We would love to answer some of your questions if you've got anything you want to know, or if there's anything you particularly would like us to talk about on the pod. It would be great just to get your feedback. That's it from me. Dan, anything you want to add?
No, reiterate that. We welcome feedback, good or bad. If it's bad and we don't like it, we'll either ignore it or cry ourselves to sleep. But either way, we'd love to.
If you're thinking of leaving bad feedback, I've heard that if you give us 5 stars, that's how you really show us you don't like it. If you want to give us good feedback, you should also leave 5 stars. So the moral of the story is 5 stars, and then you can write whatever you want.
Perfect. Good thinking. But thanks very much for listening, guys.
Cheers, guys. Take care.